Day. Very good day to you. And this is one of my favorite segments. That is to share with you my stories about wholesome vegan cookbook. As I actually told you in the previous episode, a lot of my recipes actually they have a story to go with it. It's because it's my really personal life. And I, when I actually got this cookbook published, and a lot of my friends who are like they are like very professional and veterans in culinary, they told me this very flattering comment about my cookbook, saying that Kiyu, your cookbook doesn't have any cheating, and it's a very sincere and very original and very real cookbook. And I understand what they mean actually, because if you were to actually, of course, I should not, so-called talk bad about other people's, but indeed in the market, there are a lot of books out there. They are there generated for some kind of so-called income generation, which is lawful, of course. But the the way it is generated, the sincerity is lacking. You can feel it's lacking because it seems like a lot of copy and paste and a lot of reassembling and all this. And I assure you, Wholesome Vegan Cookbook is not that kind of cookbook. It's my proud baby, and and uh, and even though it's my proud baby, and it is I can confess that it's not a perfect cookbook. Why? When I actually create this cookbook, with big support from Thermomix Malaysia, and they give me a lot of support. They get the top-notch so-called photographer to take photos for me, and also they have very good staffing to actually come and help me in fine-tuning the recipes and translating into Thermomix so-called stories. Sorry, Thermomix format and all this. So I can't be more grateful, but because it is a very big project. It's a very big project with 64 recipes in there. And I remember the first session when I actually do up the cooking. The first session I do the cooking. Um, I cook like 12 dishes, and for them to take photos from 9 to 5 or 6:30, something like that. I nearly fainted, really, quote and unquote fainted. It was like very tiring and all this. And so it totally, I think it took me about 8 photo sessions actually, total 8 photo sessions, including my own personal photo, and then like six major six major sessions, and then another one more session as a so-called ingredient taking, ingredient photo taking, and one more like just to patch up whatever which was not perfect and all this. So when I did that 12 dishes a day, in the first 6 sessions, I tell you, and I was just busy cooking and cooking and cooking, and also fine tuning the recipes. And when it comes to the photo taking and all this, I always say it's very perfect photo taking, and but somehow I couldn't supervise enough to a certain extent that to put in my personal feel how actually I perceive the so-called the presentation should be. Some of the photos are up to my personal so-called imagination, that how I wanted, but some I leave it to the camera person, which not bad at all. They score 90% actually. But I thought if I were to have more time to to give more some kind of feel, or some kind of personal feel in that, the story touching feel and all this, it would be like, wow, this is my really precious cookbook. Okay, and as I mentioned, many of these recipes here, they come along with some stories and all this, and also story, maybe it could be my personal story about how I discover it and how I actually get the idea. And today I'm going to tell you that this crème of the Orient, which is in Chinese is called 和风浓汤, which is Japanese style thick soup, basically, in a Chinese translation literally. But in English we call it like a crème de Orient. Well, I just wanted to give it a special, a very special name for it and all this. to attract people attention. But the idea is, this is actually of Japanese origin, but it's not truly Japanese origin because traditionally the Japanese don't cook this way. And it's definitely not in the Japanese cookbook that I copy from. It's my 100% original recipe. Okay, and how I actually invented this recipe is that I went to Japan a few years ago, and I had homestay at one of the Japanese family, and their daughter is Ichiban cook. And because I'm a vegan, along with a few others who do the homestay as well, and she decided to cook us for during that stay, for at least 8 days or something like that. She cooked every day for us, very very different meals, and they are all vegan, and of course Japanese. Yeah. So I have a very deep immersion into Japanese culture, and sometimes when they cook something for us, I would be very curious and eager to ask, is this a traditional recipe? Is that how the Japanese do it? And the daughter actually, who is the cook also, she told me that no, some of them are actually westernized. She liked to read, she liked to incorporate Western recipe into her Japanese cooking. So this is actually not truly 100% Japanese, with some touch of Western uh, ideas, which I actually learned from this young lady. Okay, and she made a miso soup that time. She made a miso soup, and traditional miso soup, a very very basic miso soup, is done with vegetable broth, and then you just mix in the miso. Okay, that's a very standard one. Okay, the vegetable broth your cruciferous vegetable broth. It could, like your choy sim, your xiaobaizai broth. It can work. It can work. They have this kind of veggie in Japan as well. And but very common, they will have daikon, which is the white radish base. They would have this mushroom with kombu, seaweed, as the base broth, and then they mix in the miso, and that's the standard thing that we actually appreciate in Singapore, in Malaysia, in the rest part of the world. But when I had this lady's very new invention, not her invention actually, she showed me the cookbook that she learned from a cookbook, that she served the soup that she served us that morning, although it was a miso soup, but that was with a touch of the Western idea. That is, she added in peanut butter. She added in peanut butter to blend with her miso, with her vegetable broth, to make a very thick, creamy uh, Japanese and Western mixture of this soup. Yeah, this very nice miso soup. I love it so much. But then again, back, after that, when I come back to Malaysia, I wanted to follow that recipe, but then again, I'm such a nutrition freak and all this, and health freak as well. I know unless I can get hold of very good quality peanut butter or peanut, because many peanuts are, so-called laced with aflatoxin because of the poor storage condition in humid countries like Singapore and Malaysia. So I decided not to use the, so-called peanut. So I thought of another type of nuts, which is the walnut here. So that's how this Japanese thick soup is actually created. So it's basically a vegetable broth. It's basically a vegetable broth, but this vegetable broth is daikon broth, which is a white radish broth. And then with this base, okay, I add in the miso, and then I thicken it instead of peanut. I thicken it with walnut. So and it turned out so nice. And that kind of feel was like the feel I had in Japan. This is the joy of being a vegan, joy of creating new recipes, not following recipes from the traditional way of eating meat and all this. How I'm going to make a mock duck, I'm going to make a mock char siu. I'm sorry, okay. I know I might offend a little bit of people, but I prefer something really, really natural. Yeah, so I hope you are moved to try this out. If you already got my cookbook, this crème de Orient, which is a walnut daikon soup, Japanese style. So if you haven't, contact me, and I will send you a copy. Thank you.